Today, we're stepping into the uncanny valley where clipboards meet code. The machines aren't taking over, they're just trying to read your notes. We're talking about AI, UAD 3.6, and the death of the sacred form. Inspection isn't what it used to be, and neither are we. Stick around.
LIA Administrators and Insurance Services, serving valuation professionals since 1978. We provide E&O insurance with a commitment to superior customer service, outstanding liability education, and unmatched claim defense. Explore our exclusive appraiser liability education by Peter Christensen and cost-effective seminars designed to foster your growth. Our underwriters, with an average of 26 years of experience each, are dedicated to supporting appraisers. Visit liability.com to discover how LIA can safeguard your business. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast with your host, Hal Humphreys.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to today's Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Jim Morrison, and let me bring back in our host, Hal Humphreys. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
Jim, I'm doing fantastic today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, we are very excited to speak with Hansel Dobbs. He's the general manager and the chief appraiser at Inspectify. And Hansel recently created an AI-powered tool designed to help appraisers navigate UAD 3.6. Let me bring him in. Hey, Hansel.
Hey, how's it going?
Hansel, man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us. And for the listeners out there that aren't familiar with Hansel Dobbs, I can say a couple things without hesitation. Number one, he's a fine human being. He's one of the kindest people you'll ever meet to. He's also one of the smartest people in this industry. Hansel is, I've known him for a couple of years now, and I've always enjoyed getting to spend time with him. So Hansel, for the folks in the room that don't know who you are, give us a really brief, tell us about your time in the industry, how you ended up being in the appraiser business, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm second generation. So my dad's an MAI. So I grew up helping him appraise different stuff and going out on jobs with him. Got to go on a couple of trips to some commercial properties with him and graduated from college, went to work for him, and then eventually found my way at LandSafe. So I'm part of the LandSafe alumni. I worked there for a handful of years and then went to a few other places and then kind of got into this tech part of the space. And so I got to work with Heather Sullivan over at Aloft and do some really cool stuff in the cost world. And then we just got acquired in March by Inspectify. So Inspectify is doing some really cool stuff in the inspection world with licensed home inspectors. And so we're combining that with our valuation tools and services.
I love it. Well, let's do this. Let's pivot real quick and talk about UAD 3.6. It's all news that anybody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information out there about UAD 3.6. I've taught the class several times. We've got several people teaching the class around the country. There are always questions. Some of those questions are fairly easy to answer. Others, I point people to F1 and C1. If you've taken the class, you know what I'm talking about. But you've done something a little bit different. You've created something you shared on LinkedIn in that helped collate all the information together, and then you use AI to create a UAD 3.6 interactive guide. We'll include links to this in the comments. That'll be in the comments below this video. But tell me about what you've done there.
Yeah, well, I'm constantly playing with these tools. And I think that's kind of the key to the whole thing is getting in there and playing with them. And I just had an idea because I had a question too, just like a lot of people have about this. And so I started off with, well, I can go pull up the UAD 3.6 docs, but then I was thinking, but what does the selling guide say? And then I thought, well, has there been an appraiser update newsletter too on the same topic? So then I need to go look at that. I was just, oh no, I don't want to do all that. So I was on vacation. This is just me being a complete nerd about all this kind of stuff. So I, I think the kids were worn out from us hiking, and so they were watching TV. So I just sat there at the bar for like 3 hours, and I just started loading all the data into Notebook LM. And I just kept loading it and loading it and loading. It took a while, but then finally I got it all in there, and then I was able to say, okay, tell me how I should deal with solar panels in UAD 3.6, and also what does the selling guide say about it? And the answer was beautiful. I was just like, oh my gosh. Now I built it. It's a cool tool. It's me getting in there and playing with all this stuff. So I can't promise I'm gonna keep it perfectly up to date as things change over time. So you can certainly build your own using Notebook LM, or I think you can do the same thing with Chat GPT projects or Claude projects. So there's a lot of different tools out there, and you can add whatever data you want to these things. And so there's a lot of cool things that you can do with this. But this is a good example of what you can do.
The thing I like about Notebook LM is you can upload information into that system and it stays
Hmm.
there. It doesn't go out looking for other answers. It
Yep.
doesn't you get too cute with it. It just says, here's the body of knowledge. This is what I'm
Yep.
going to draw from to answer questions. Um, UAD 3.6 decouples inspection duties from full report ownership, making it easier to use trainees or assistants. How is AI helping automate or validate those handoffs?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff going on in that space. I think we definitely will see more desktops and hybrids, especially with the just how much more robust that inspection process is going to end up being. I know that, image recognition technology is getting much better. So I think you're going to see some quality control measures come to place using AI. Things like, was a picture of blankety blank taken? Is it a good photo? And so stuff like that's I think it's absolutely going to get automated, especially in terms of quality control. And so that's going to definitely happen at the enterprise level. How that shifts down to the actual appraiser, I'm not so sure. My hope is that some of those tools will come to bear so appraisers can leverage a trainee, send them out to do an inspection, and then go through something to say, yeah, they did a good job or they didn't do a good job. You're going to see these automations show up in various ways, and it's touching every industry out there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think that's one thing that we appraisers need to keep in mind. Hansel is an appraiser by trade. I am an appraiser by trade. Um, at the end of the day, these tools are not just impacting us as appraisers, it's
Hmm.
hitting pretty much every industry, especially where you've got repetitive, rote tasks
Yeah.
that you have to do. So what I'm thinking of, Hansel, is like all that time spent looking for the zoning and the zoning specific regulations, those kind of things. I mean, with Notebook LM, you could upload your specific county
Yeah. See.
zoning document in there and say, I've got a piece of property located here. What's a zone? Tell me what the parameters table says about setbacks, side
Hmm.
setbacks, those kind of things. I think this is a really good thing to kind of help us move through some of these rote tasks a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, some counties and some cities have better data than others. You got to get your hands on there and create the stuff. I'll give you an example. So I've become, for whatever reason, I've become kind of like the family historian. So I've got binders and binders of letters and genealogy stuff. And so, back in the day, people used to write 2 or 3 page, beautifully written cursive letters. I've got hundreds of them. So they're kind of hard to read. Like my great grandmother's writing was beautiful, but it's really nice cursive. So I had the idea the other day. It's like, I wonder if Claude can read it. So I scanned it. I scanned the letter. I uploaded it to Claude and I said, transcribe this for me. It did it.
Oh, wow.
Yes, wow.
Wow.
But I only know that because I have the letters and I tried. I tried it and it transcribed it, and I was able to really read it a lot better or a lot faster than just trying to work my way through her cursive. And it wasn't perfect, but it was good enough that I could easily read the letter. And so then I just started scanning tons of these letters in the thing. And so I've kind of got this little side project right now. I'm trying to digitize all this stuff, and I'm trying to create a notebook LM for my family history so I can ask questions.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Just, yeah, my nerd brain is going down the hole of like, be careful what you ask it.
Yes.
You might find out the family tree doesn't fork where you thought it did at some point.
Yeah. But
So,
like with zoning data, you need to upload it all and start asking it some questions and then double backing and checking to see how good it answered the question and just see. I mean, you just have to kind of get in there and play around.
That's one of the keys. We live under this set of rules called Uniform Standards of
Hmm.
Professional Appraisal Practice, and one of the things that USPAP requires of us is to verify. We have to verify the information we're going to use. And I think, when you upload the letter and AI transcribes it, you've
Hmm.
actually got the source document there to compare
Hmm.
to the transcription to verify that it's getting it right, or if it's not, and where it's not. Let me ask you this. You know, AI is changing a lot of things, and we appraisers for the past 30 some odd years have been dealing with a form, and that kind of
Hmm.
dictated the way we approach residential appraisal. How is AI shifting the narrative from form to the process? And what kind of benefits do you think we as appraisers can gain in terms of efficiency and credibility?
I think it's going to be all about the process. It's going to be about, this is rocking so many industries right now. If you're in a call center, if you're, you know, luckily we're in this position of we're in an industry where the data changes a lot. It never stays the same. It can be very ambiguous. You have a lot of different people mapping the data with different incentives. Did they include the balcony in the GLA? I don't know. You kind of need to know that market pretty well. So figuring out how to interpret those nuances and bake it into the value, I think that that's our superpower that we really have to embrace. It's not going to be how good are we at taking photos and measuring a house. I mean, everything that I'm seeing, they're talking about bringing 3 Mile Island back online. They're thinking about building 30 more nuclear generators. I mean, this is going to transform our entire world over the next 5 years. And so I think it's really getting very comfortable with digging into the details and getting really good at the process and delivering a lot of value into those little edge cases, and explaining the market really well. It's not going to be about how you fill out that little box in a form. That I think, with AI getting better and better, that's going to get really quick.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. There are often people that bring up concerns. How do you address concerns about accuracy, bias, liability when appraisers rely on AI generated insight? We just talked about it gets a pretty good, but not exactly right on things. How do you address those issues of liability and bias and accuracy?
Well, I mean, I can't really say I rely on it. I think that's the key word there is I wouldn't rely on it. I'd use it as a tool. It's really good at writing, and you have to find that comfort level. I think you get there, you figure it out after using it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
You try Claude, try Chat GPT, try Grok. Um, have it write load the data, have it write your final reconciliation, read through the final reconciliation, check it against the data sources, and be like, okay, no, I'm good with that. I'll change this here and there. If you do that 100 times, at some point you'll get more comfortable with it. I kind of liken it to the move from the slide rule to the calculator. Because
Yeah.
back in the day, there used to be protests against calculators. Like, how dare you try to bring a calculator into this math class? Like, you have to do it by the slide rule is the only way to do this. But you get comfortable with it. Eventually, they start, I can trust this thing.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we were not allowed to take calculators into the math class.
Yeah.
It was just like you've got to learn how to do this, by rote. You've got to learn, what this is,
Hmm.
this is. And I mean, I literally cannot think without a calculator these days. I think, at the end of the day, I think relied on is problematic. Used the tool, I think we're walking down the right path on that one.
Yeah. And it's the same with any other data source. I mean, like here in Dallas, we've got pretty good MLS data. And I have a certain comfort with it from over the years that somebody new to this market, they would be like, I don't know. But if you go into some other MLS, it's like if I went to Memphis or Illinois, I'd be like, is this really the GLA?
Yeah.
A local person would be able to inform me and tell me, yeah, I don't know if you really should trust that. That's only because they've been using it for so long. So you got to put some reps into this stuff. You got to, I don't know, maybe build some genealogy from your family with it or have it write stuff and then check the sources. I mean, you just got to get comfortable with it.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let me ask you this. You've been playing around with these tools for quite some time. You
Hmm.
produced this tool that you shared through LinkedIn. And again, for those that want to have a whack at that, we'll have a link to it below this conversation.
Hmm.
How are your appraiser peers responding to tools like the one you just posted? Do they feel empowered? Do they feel overwhelmed? Or are they terrified by it?
Uh, I think a lot of appraisers just aren't using the tools as much as they probably should. I think some appraisers might be a little bit overwhelmed at the UAD 3.6. I know the ATA and some of the stuff that we're doing locally here. We're trying to have, forums to help dispel a lot of that kind of stuff and bring some. And of course, I just threw this tool out there to help if it can.
Yeah.
I think the thing that appraisers need to do is they need to ask these tools harder questions and they need to start to explore the edges of them
Mhm.
like what I did with my great grandmother's letter. I didn't realize who would have thought it could read that. I was like, this is incredible. So like, and I'll give you some context around that. Is there's a test, one of the benchmarks for these tools is called the last human exam. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
So they created this test. It's got 2,500 questions on it. All the questions are sourced from PhD experts from like Cambridge, Harvard, Yale, people at the leading edge of all these professions.
Right.
So they sourced 2,500 questions, and so all the LLMs test against it. Grok, Grok Heavy just scored the highest score of 44.
Wow.
Your best, smartest human beings could score maybe like a 2 or a 3. These questions are your normal human being can't answer any of these questions. Like you got to be like a PhD researcher. So you're talking really smart stuff that can handle some crazy mathematics and stuff. And so again, you just got to get in there and take it for a test run. But those first test runs should be test runs. You need to bring it back to the source data. Did it do a good job? I don't know. And then build some confidence over it. But even if it's not that great right now, whatever you're trying to solve, keep at it because it's changing every single month.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
some point, it might actually pass the test, your personal test, and you might be like, oh my gosh, I can really use this now.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You talked about checking the edges, seeing where the thing breaks. And I'm reminded of my wife is a flight instructor, and she talks
Hmm.
about when you're learning to fly, one of the exercises they have you do in an airplane is you take the airplane up and you have it stall. And the engine isn't stalling, the wings are stalling. So it's an aerodynamic stall. And the reason they do that is that that moment where the wing stops to fly is the edge of the envelope.
Yeah.
And the way to recover from it, but it's just getting into your body and your muscle memory where the thing breaks and
Yeah.
how to recover from it. So push the envelope a little bit with these tools. I would say don't push the envelope and send it to a client straight away.
No, 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 no.
But push the envelope and find out where you're comfortable with it. Hansel, this is not different from, I had an argument with an appraiser 5 years ago in my hometown of Humboldt, Tennessee.
Hmm.
He said, I don't trust these digital laser measuring things. They're just not as accurate as my fiberglass tape that I've been using for 15 years. I'm like,
Hmm.
how long have you had that fiberglass tape? 15 years. And you've used it in the Tennessee heat for 15 years and pulled it tight across the front of a bunch of houses.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that has maybe stretched over time and maybe your scale is off? Number one. Number two, have you tested the laser measure against a current, good working tape to see how accurate it is? And lo and behold, he goes out and specifically tests laser measure and bought himself a brand new 100-foot tape measure and was spot on, spot on, spot on. And now he uses a laser measure.
Hmm.
But he was not going to do it because he just knew it wasn't right. But you've got to get out and test these things. Let me ask you one last question, Hansel. What are some common misunderstandings you're seeing around UAD 3.6 or AI usage in valuation that appraisers should be aware of?
Yeah, this actually came up. We had an event here in Dallas with Lyle Radke, and he brought up some really good points at that. I'm seeing a lot of messages where people see things like window coverage or land rights, and they're like, I have to do this on every report. And and of course, check this against the sources. I mean, I don't speak for the GSEs or anything, but based on what I'm hearing, is that the key thing is here we're moving away from an addendum. And imagine a world today where land rights do matter, water rights do matter. In the 1004 today, you might put that down there in that little other features row, but more than likely you're going to do this all in a big blurb over there in the addendum. Well, with UAD 3.6, you now have a dedicated row for it.
Yeah.
So in the way I think Lyle he called it a paintbrush. You just have a different paintbrush now. So instead of just dumping stuff into the addendum, you now can actually map water rights to the grid. You can now map window coverage. I mean, God forbid you go see a home and it's only got one window. Okay, well, if it does, you have a row. You could say this one has hardly any coverage and all the others have normal coverage. So there you go. Now you can do the adjustments in the grid.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
So,
Well, Hansel, let's do this. I want to take a quick break. We'll hear from one of our sponsors and we'll be right back.
okay.
ACI introduces ACI Sky Workbench, a cutting-edge cloud-based platform designed to streamline URAR appraisal report generation like never before. With seamless workflow integration, automated data management, and built-in compliance, Workbench empowers appraisers to work smarter, faster, and with greater accuracy. Visit aciweb.com for more info.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzz. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. I'm joined today by Hansel Dobbs, a good friend, a super smart person in this space that is real estate appraisal who goes out and tries new things and shares them with fellow appraisers. Hansel, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I always enjoy our conversations. Jim Morrison, our producer on this show, likes to throw these anonymous appraiser questions. And I think he does it just to make me look like an idiot. But Jim Morrison, if you're still around, do you have something you're going to try and trip us up with today?
Yeah, we do. We have a good one. So if anybody has any questions for the anonymous appraiser section, reach out to us at comments@appraisalbuzz.com or put them in the comments in our YouTube. So this one says, the seller purchased a brand new home in May. They were called back to work in another state and they never even got to live in the home, and now they need to sell it. Can you use this home as its own comp? I know it sounds weird, but it's so recent. The condition hasn't changed since they just bought it.
Yeah, I've actually had some appraisers ask me this at our firm here at Aloft. So we've definitely looked into this in the past, but essentially you're already going to have to address it anyway below the sales comparison grid. So you can certainly add it to the grid, but it's a little bit redundant since you have an entire text section dedicated to it just right there. Now it'll be in a different place in the UAD 3.6, but yeah, you're going to have to address it in that case. I think the selling guide will allow you to use it as a comp, but only as a fourth comp. You're still going to have to come up with 3 other sales.
Yeah. I have absolutely nothing to add to that other than to say, if you have a sale of a property that is identical to your subject, that is by definition a really good piece of information to consider.
It is.
It's you've got to consider, you've got to have, but I mean, USPAP requires us as appraisers to consider and analyze any pending contracts on the subject property if they're available to us during the normal course of business. We're already considering those properties, that sale, that transaction, the pending sale, the pending transaction, and they can have an impact on how we look at our final conclusion of value. So yeah, I think you're fine to look at it. Personally, I don't think I would throw it in the sales grid. I don't know that that's where it belongs. But if you do, selling guide, as Hansel pointed out, it can't be your 3 primary sales. But yeah, I think you'd be remiss if you did not consider the past sale, especially 6 months ago, because USPAP requires us for subject properties to analyze prior transactions for how many years?
3.
3 years. Yeah, trick question. So Jim Morrison, did we do okay on that?
Yeah, I think you covered it all. So thank you guys for that.
All right, do you have anything else for us?
If anybody has FOMO and they missed out at Valuation Expo and they want to hear more about UAD and find out what's going on, you can still join us for the Appraisal Summit a month from now in Las Vegas, September 27th through the 30th.
Very good. Well, Hansel, thank you again for taking the time to be with us.
All right. Thank you.
For Jim Morrison and Hansel Dobbs, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for this week. If you missed us at Val Expo, you can find us again next month in Las Vegas with the Appraisal Summit. We're co-hosting that conference with the National Association of Appraisers. Hope to see you there.